Good day, everyone. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys can hear me. Can hear me? Please let us know in the comment section, right? So that I can make sure that everybody can hear me. So, good everyone. You can hear me. Hope everyone can hear me. You can hear me. Let us know in the comment section. Let's sure that everyone can hear what I'm saying. Okay. I'm also sharing my screen, so if you can also see my screen, please let me know in the comment section. Okay, so can you hear me? Just go to the comment section and tell me. Okay. Jumaya Moss. Jumaya Moss saying you can hear me clearly. Okay, welcome everyone to today's class. Today we'll be discussing client management and creative media, creative professionalism. So if you can hear me and clearly and you could see my screen clearly, please let me know in the comment section, okay? So that we are so sure that we are not having a glitch and everyone, okay? Rita Chinya is saying we can hear me. That's good. Okay, and if you're also watching this from the YouTube live stream and you can hear me, please indicate, let us also know so that we know that everyone is live and clear. Okay, so good day everyone and welcome to today's class. Today we'll be discussing client management and creative professionalism, right? Remember, this is a part of the TVET Creative Media Production class. TVET Creative Media Production Program is a program of the IDS project of the Federal Ministry of Education with support from the World Bank. And Digital Dreams remains your training service provider, and I am your instructor for today's class, Mr. Edoga Choko. So welcome everyone to today's class. I hope we could have a nice time, right? So today we are looking at client management and creative professionalism as a practical guide for Nigerian creative media professional. And today we are going to cover client management, time mastery, negotiation, emotional intelligence, and what growth mindset. I know some of you want to jump to how to use a camera and shooting a camera and editing videos. But That's if you know only the technical skills without the soft skills and how to deal with clients, you will end up an amateur. So these are the things that separate a professional from an amateur. So please pay attention as we delve into today's class. Right? Like we say, the difference is not talent. Two creatives can deliver the same quality work, but one will struggle with payment and stress, while the other one enjoys repeat clients and referrals. The difference is not just talent, it is how they manage clients, right? So client management is a career skill, not a personality trait, because every Nigerian creative professional can learn and master it. So you need to understand that it's not a trait, it's not something you are born with, right? Client management, nobody is born and he has a career management, client management trait in his blood. No, it is not hereditary. It is a skill that you can learn. And what we are trying to teach you in this course is how to learn the skill. So by the end of this course, you will have learned how to manage your client. Okay, let's move on. So what is client management? What really is client management? The first one is understanding the client need. Identify what the client actually needs, not just what they say. Next is aligning expectations, setting clear expectations before any work begins. Also, client management is also communicating professionally, so maintaining a professional tone at every stage of the project. Then also, another part of client management is protecting your value, right? You need to be able to guard your time, your income, your boundaries consistently. And another part of client management is building trust, ability to cultivate trust that leads to repeat business. And I also want to ask this question, right? How many of you have had a client and when it reaches the negotiation part, when it's asking you how much will they pay, you are finding it so difficult to negotiate the value of your services. If you have ever been in a situation where you found it so difficult to negotiate your price or your fee, let me know in the comment section, right? Because if you have had such problems, and if you're on YouTube, you could also put the comments, right? If you have negotiation, for instance, is a very serious problem for most creatives. How can you communicate your value and ask for your fee, right? Mr. Stodd is saying that he has had such experience, right? Please just give us a brief of your experience if you have had such experience, right? Right? Okay. If you have such experience, Miracle Chukwu is saying here she has also had such experience. Just write a brief of such experience. I'll read it out so that when we reach the negotiation skill, because part of this course will be teaching negotiation. So because we know that negotiation is one of the biggest problems for beginners in the creative industry, because in most time as a creative, you are going to negotiate with a client. Your client can also be a fellow creative, like a director or a producer, but that negotiation skill is important, and that is one of the things we are going to talk about. So please, if you have had an experience with negotiating or closing a deal, please put in your experience in the comment section right away. When we delve down to negotiation, we will read it out and we'll give you an example of how to solve some of those problems. So I want to use your experience as a teaching material for today's lesson. So that's why I'm calling it out early. So please go over to the comment section and make out and put in the comments about your experience negotiating for good skill. And also, I want to inform everyone here that this slide is also available on Link School, right? It's also available on Link School app. So you can always go to you can right away go to the Link School app, download it to your phone so that you can follow me as I am doing this lesson. It is always much fun, always much more interesting if you have the slide at hand, all right, and you are following me. So I want you to follow me better. So you can go to the Link School Link School app, download today's slide, and look at it and follow me as I'm taking this course. So fine. So and remember also, please go to the comment section and put in your experience of negotiation so that when we reach the negotiation part stage, we can read it out. So thank you. Let's move on. Right. Now, when you are discussing client management, you need to know that it is critical. It is a very critical skill in a creative media. The challenge, why? Because creative work is subjective. What means that subjective is that it is opinionated. You can do this work and some people like it and another person hates it. So there is no universal truth in a creative work. It's not like mathematics where 1 + 1 is 2 in any part of the universe, as we always say. In creative work, 1 + 1 can be 2, and 1 + 1 can be 11, and 1 + 1 can be 22. Right? So we need to understand this, that it is subjective. Then also, clients often change their mind. You can design a work, for instance, or produce a work, and the client sees that and likes it now. He goes to sleep and wakes up the next morning, and he doesn't like it. Or he goes to the house, and the wife tells him or her, tells him that you need to make these changes or the other one. And he comes back to tell, hey, I need these changes to be done. Right? Also, client management is important because poor communication will cause conflict, right? Sometimes your contract or the job you are being assigned to will end in conflict. So you need a proper communication to make sure that in all cases you can manage that client and make sure that you deliver on time, as well as protect yourself. And if you don't take time and if you don't also know how to manage clients, you might have unlimited revision and it will destroy your profit. So you can charge 1 million for a project, and the client will always keep saying, change that, change this, change that, change that. And it will take your whole time doing that, and you won't have any profits. So the truth is that creative success in Nigeria's competitive media landscape is relationship driven, not project driven. Remember, we have been mentioning this. If you have followed this class for a long while, we have always been talking about that. In the competitive media landscape, it's relationship driven. It is not project driven. It is the relationship you have with people who actually make you have repeat business. Because it works with referrals and recommendations. And people will always go back to who they work well with. So understand that having a good client management skill will mean that you won't destroy relationships. The Adekunle who manages clients well will always outlast the Emeka who only focuses on technical skills. It's important. So your ability to manage clients is an important skill. And understanding that relationship determines long-term success, not just the quality of your work. So it is not just the quality of your work. Relationship plays a critical part in determining success in the creative industry. Now, the first area is understanding your client's needs, right? Most clients cannot clearly explain what they want. That's just the truth. Most indicator is that probably that the people will be educated on smoking and stop smoking. So even if you do the best cinematography, right? The best picture, people didn't get the message and stop smoking. That is still success in the eye of the client. So we need to avoid the mistake of starting work without full clarity. Because that is make sure you have clarity before you start any project. Moving on, how do you translate what? big ideas into the, because most clients will just come and tell you, make it pop, right? Or vibe, they say make it sharp, right? Or add vibe. Eh? So if they say make it pop, that is still vague, right? That is still vague. You need to be able to understand, break it down. And I give you an example how it's done now. If someone say make it pop or make it sharp, you need to be able to ask, do you want brighter or warmer color grading, right? Faster cut with energy, Afrobeat or upbeat background music, text animation. You need to make it pop. So never accept big language, convert it to specific actionable instruction every time. So if it says make it up and you transform it to an actionable instruction like we did on the right side of the screen, you will notice that if the client signs off on them, that is what they really mean. And the client will treat that you can break down what is a vague idea into something that has a clear instruction. It is quite important you learn how to do that. Right? Enough to inform the client. Let's move on. Right? Another aspect of client management is your communication, right? You need to use what is called assertive communication, which is calm, fair, firm, and respectful communication. This style is what wins long-term client relationship in the creative industry, right? Not aggressive. And we'll give an example of the two later, right? Also, another aspect of client management is handling feedback. You need to learn how to handle feedback professionally. You must learn how to listen without reacting emotionally, right? And listen attentively. Listen without rolling your eyes or changing your face. Pay attention and listen, no matter what the client is saying. You must also learn how to ask clarifying questions and also learn how to do what? Focus on project goals, not your ego, right? Please don't take feedbacks personally or argue emotionally with a client, right? Don't. And one of the worst things to also do to a client is to dismiss their feedback as ignorance. You just say the client doesn't know what he's saying, or he's not in the field. He should not be the one telling me my job. No, don't do that. Listen to client feedback. There is one of the stories I always like to tell of Michelangelo and one of his patrons. When he was up doing a sculpture work up his ceiling, right? One of the patrons came, he came down to see a patron who came to see the work. And the patron said, hey, there is, and the nose of the subject you are sculpting is bent, it's not at the right angle, right? Michelangelo understood that it's because of the perspective. The patron is at the bottom, while Michelangelo as the artist, as a sculptor, is at the top. So what Michelangelo did was to just come down, pick some dust, some marble dust, go up that sculpture, do as if he is trying to use his chisel to chisel something, and let some of the dust fall down. And when he finished that, he came down and told the client, asked the client, "Is the nose now right?" The client said, "Yes, it's now right." And the client went home happy. And while Michelangelo did not change anything, he did not tell the client, "You don't know what you are saying. It's because you are not an artist. You can't be teaching me my job." He actually satisfied the client's ego while still maintaining professionalism. This is the kind of thing we expect that you should know how to do. Right? You should also know how to separate personal taste versus your project goal. Sometimes the project goal doesn't fit into your taste, right? Your opinion about what looks or sound good is subjective. It belongs to you. It is not universal. You need to understand that as a creative professional. How you feel a music should sound, or how you feel a movie should look, or a film should look, is personal to you. It is not universal, right? And if the project goal, right, is different from your personal taste, always ensure that the project goal wins, right? The objective outcome the client needs is paramount. This is what matters what? Professional, right? So in everything the client says you change, you should always ask one professional question, which is, does this change help us achieve the project goal? If the answer is, you should let that change happen, because that question of, does this change help us achieve the project goal, helps so much in resolving creative disagreement, right? So it is quite important. So learning conflict resolution. Remember, we have been talking about conflict resolution for quite a while now. Why we keep saying we always come back to conflict resolution, because it is one of the things that destroy people's career, is their inability to resolve conflict. So we expect that we are training professionals that will know how to resolve conflict, right? First of all, when there is a conflict in your creative work, the very first thing you must learn to do is to do what? To stay calm. Staying calm ensures that you don't do emotional reaction, because emotional reaction escalates conflict. But composure de-escalates it. Another thing to always do is focus on the solutions, not blame. Ask the question, how do we fix it? Remember, there are two key words there. We means it's you and the person. So it is not I. Fix it, you are looking at the solution, right? Then don't say who caused this, is important. Then if there are issues, always learn how to refer back to your agreement. You see why your written brief is important, your written brief and the sign off from the client. Your written brief and scope of work document is one of your strongest tools. And also, you must also know when to disengage, right? Because some clients are not worth the stress. Know that. So in as much as we are teaching you all this, also know that some clients does not want the stress. You must also know when to walk away professionally. The golden rule is that professionalism wins even when the client is wrong. So even when the client is wrong, your professionalism can still win. So let's look at how trust is built with clients. How do you, because what we are looking at is to make sure that you have repeat business. People refer you more, people recommend you more. If you deliver quality consistently, you will build trust. So every project is a trust deposit or a withdrawal. You either deposit in the client more trust on you, or you withdraw the trust by how you deliver the project. If you keep delivering quality consistently, you will deposit more trust. You also have to know how to meet deadlines reliably, right? Clients remember who delivers on time, not if everybody who have experience with tell us, for instance, if you give a tailor your clothes and he tells you to come on Tuesday and you come on Tuesday and you collect that clothes on time and he met your deadline, you will most likely return to that tailor when you have the next clothes to sew, right? You also need to be honest about your capabilities, right? Never overpromise. Learn how to do what? Under promise and what? Over deliver. Also go beyond your brief. If people give you a brief, go beyond it. Offer helpful suggestions that show you care about their success. That also shows that you are a professional. Now, what's the result of trust? You will have repeat business. That's one of the things. Trusted creatives get called back again and again. You have referrals. Happy clients become what? Your best marketing, right? Is one of the most important one. Then trusted creative command higher fees over time. So over time, if you are trusted, over time, you will command what? Higher fees. And also, good relationship means fewer conflicts and smoother projects. This one is quite important. So this is one of all the reasons why you should know how to manage clients. So when clients trust you, they return and recommend you. This is a foundation of sustainable creative career in Nigeria. You will see, we have been talking about trust, trust, trust. Because we want to create trustworthy professionals. Now, another very key area in client management is client education, right? You must learn to educate your client on your job, because uneducated clients underpay creative. They over-revise endlessly. They keep changing things, change this, change that. They also misjudge timelines, and they don't understand the value of quality. But you could do that, change all this by educating your clients, right? One of the good ways of educating your clients can also be posting content on social media that you know your clients will see, watch, right? It helps in educating them on your job and the job you do. So, and when the client is educated, right, they will respect the creative process. We see, for instance, if you are doing it behind the scene of your job, of your behind the scenes of your processes, right? Assuming I'm doing an editing and I'm doing behind the scene, showing how I cut, how I remove this thing and added all those dots. I'm also providing clients education. I'm not only just advertising my work, I'm also creating what? Client education. I'm educating the clients on how tedious what I'm doing is and the processes it takes to achieve it. So it will help them to respect the creative process. They will also pay for value, not just what? Outputs. They will also be able to give you clearer and more useful what? Feedback. So smart creatives educate. Desperate what? Creatives obey. Even when somebody briefs you, take out time to what? Give proper education, explain all the processes, explain how you do it, and explain the expected outcome. That will make the client respect you more. So how do you educate your clients? You explain your creative process. What clients through what editing, color grading, or motion graphics actually involves. You can explain it to them. You could also use social media to post and show them so that they always see the processes, right? Explain timeline and constraint. Help clients understand what quality is, and that quality takes time, right? By them understanding that, they will now know that they are paying for a value, not just for the work. Explain value, not just price, right? Show what they gain, not just what they pay. So when you do your work, you should be able to explain to client and show them what they will gain, not just what they will pay. It is quite useful and important. Then teach useful feedback. Show clients how to give specific, actionable, creative direction. This all will help you have an educated client. Right? Another very key thing in what client management is documentation. We have been hammering on this documentation if you have been following us. And we know why we are hammering on that, because we tend to forget. And part of your documentation includes Written agreement, a contract or formal agreement covering scope, fees, and timeline. Always have that. We have always been saying that. Pay invoice. Don't call your client and tell them that you are supposed to pay. Send them an invoice with payment terms, right? State deposit requirements, due dates, and late payment what consequences, right? It's important. Then approval sign up. You must get written what approvals at each major milestone before proceeding. So you should make your client sign off each of what the creative milestones that are supposed to be achieved. Then also learn how to keep communication records, right? Sometimes when you have the client, right, you record your conversation with them, one, or you use written conversation like on WhatsApp. You send them your this thing on WhatsApp, or you do voice notes. But one of the things why written is important, for instance, on WhatsApp, is that you can screenshot it and save it for future. Because keeping all records of changes, requests, and agreement is important. And when a client say you should make a change, please tell them to put it in writing. It is important. Tell them, please, hey, these changes, can you write it on WhatsApp so that I can understand it better and so that I will not forget? That simple idea that they should write the changes and the revisions on WhatsApp or on emails is important because it's a protection for you, because tomorrow you can show them, hey, you told me to do this at this point in time and I did it. Or like when it's just a verbal call, right? So please make sure that all changes and revision is written and sent to you. Documentation prevents disputes. In the creative industry, documentation is your strongest legal and protection and professional protection. To always learn to document. We can never overemphasize it. Now, also after the project, there's something called, for you to understand client management very well, there's something called post-project relationship management, right? So after you have delivered the work, what can you do? You can do follow-up professionally with your clients, right? You can also ask for testimonial. It is important. Most creatives forget to ask their clients for what? Testimonial. For every job you deliver and deliver excellently, please ask the client for testimonial. Testimonial can be a written testimonial. It can also be a video testimonial. Please ask for that. Then another thing you can do is you can request for what? Referrals. Know that a closed mouth is a closed destiny, as they say in Nigeria, right? Always learn to ask for what? Referral from your satisfied customers. Then you can also offer future words services. You could also learn how to be there, follow them up, send greetings on their birthdays, on their anniversaries, on public holidays like Christmas, Salah, and the rest. Remember your clients and greet them, send greetings to them, right? Send seasonal greetings. It is important because it helps the long-term thinking. Don't just think about one job. Think about long-term relationship. Every completed project is a door to the next one. If you manage the relationship beyond delivery, you will always get the next one. So do follow-up calls or messages, and it costs nothing. Sending someone a seasonal greeting like Happy Christmas, Happy Birthday, or how are you doing today, sir? Costs nothing, but you can earn so much from it. So these are the common client management mistakes to avoid. The first one is what? Underpricing to please the customer. Please learn not to underprice yourself, right? The next one is what? Unlimited revision. You must put a cap to the number of revisions a client can make. That is the number of changes, because no cap or revision will destroy your profit and time. It is important. In your agreement, you should have something written that if the client can only do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 revisions, it is clear. You also need to understand taking feedback personally. Don't take feedback personally. Don't do emotional reactions to feedback, because emotional reactions damage professional relationship. And the last mistake, but some of the most important mistake, is please, at no point should you have no written agreement. Verbal deals leave you unprotected in disputes. So it is important you have written agreement before you start a job. Okay, now we have looked at what's client management. But we understand that in client management, one of the things that causes failure, right, is how do you manage your time? So in as much as we have discussed client management, the work they give you, right, will require you to manage your time. And most creatives, some creatives have issue with your time. So most creatives are not lazy. They are just overwhelmed because they have poor time management skills. Because time management is not just about speed, it is about what? Control. How do you control your time? Right? So creative professionals don't fail because they lack talent, but because they lack systems. And time management is one of the systems that make what? Your talents sustainable. Time management is one of those things that make your talent be sustainable. Because without time management, it will be difficult to make it as a creative profession. And why do creatives struggle with time? Right? One is that most creative work is an unpredictable process. Creative work rarely follows a straight line. You can have an inspiration or a block or a work, right? Those are the realities of the creative world. Then most creatives have multiple clients. As a freelancer, for instance, sometimes you need to juggle between 3 to 5 clients simultaneously. And you are doing this without a system, right? Also, creative struggle with time because of poor revision planning. When you finish your work, it is expected in your mind you are done with it. But the client comes back the next day and tell you need to change this or you need to change that and suggest 10 new edits. How do you handle that? You notice that if you don't know how to handle revision and you don't budget it into timeline, you might have a constant overrun. And sometimes creatives also, another thing that causes struggle with time is that sometimes they underestimate tasks, right? You plan for ideal condition, but when you come back to your house, NEPA will take lights. You plan for the ideal conditions and your gen will break. You plan for some ideal conditions for you to create it, and there is network issue, right? You can't have an ideal condition. So you must understand that you should not underestimate the task, but add additional buffer time, right? So learn how to plan for real world production, not ideal world production, because we are not living in an ideal world. So let's look at the 5 pillars of time management. You see, some of the trainees, for instance, of this course are not in this class today because of poor time management. So you can see it cuts across so many things. And these 5 pillars of time management solve specific problems creatives face. And together they form a complete time management system that can help you as a creative. See, that is, we are training you to become an outstanding professional. And these are one of the things that is required, that are required to be an outstanding professional, your time management skill. The first pillar of time management is planning and prioritizing, right? What does it mean? It means deciding what must be done first, what can wait, and what add the most value to the project and client relationship. Is important. You must know how to plan and how to prioritize, right? You should never treat all tasks as equally urgent. That's one. At the same time, you should not treat all tasks as equally what? Important, right? Also learn how to not to start with easy tasks, but start with important tasks. You can have 10 things to do, and some are important, but not urgent, and some are urgent, but not important. Always start with the ones that are important and urgent, right? Also learn how to never to jump into execution without a plan. Planning is 60% of the work. If you plan well, you will execute well. You should also learn how to what? Prioritize, how to separate critical tasks from optional ones. You also have to understand dependencies. What is dependent on what? Some tasks are dependent on the other, right? So a task that has multiple dependencies should be done first and done immediately, right? Then also focus on tasks that affect deadlines is important, because you don't just manage time, you manage priorities. Understand this. You don't just manage time, you manage what? Priorities. So set your priorities right. Another pillar of time management is time estimation. How accurate are you in what? Estimating the time required what? To do a job. For instance, the very first thing that will help you is using past project data. If you have done an edit of a 60-minute video edit in maybe 30 minutes, right? You have that data. If you have done an animation for 2 days, a 1-minute animation for 2 days, when you get a project that looks like that, you can estimate that to take the same time. So you can use your past project data. One of the problems for new creatives is that they don't have a repertoire of past data to consider. So it might be important that you discuss when you get a project for you to do time estimation, for instance, and you are a new creative, don't just estimate the time by yourself. You can ask a mentor. That is why mentorship is important. What would they think it will take to do that task? In that way, what amount of time do they think it will take to do the task? Also, you must learn how to consider task complexity, right? A 60-second brand video is not the same as 60-second wedding highlight reel, right? Some of them are more complex. A brand video sometimes is meant to communicate a message, right? But a 60-second wedding highlight reel might just be showcase of the event. So in as much as both of them are 60 seconds, one is much more complex, right? You must also learn how to budget revision in your time. So if you say you can do a job for 2 hours, for instance, right? And revisions and changes to that work will take 30 minutes. It means that the overall time for that project is 2 hours, 30 minutes. That means you have a proper time estimation, not 2 hours. You must also learn how to do what? Include technical details, right? Delays, sorry. Now, you might finish editing a work in 2 hours, but rendering it will take another 1 hour or 2. So in as much as you have told this client, hey, I can finish it in 2 hours. But remember, the client is not going to come and look at the job in your system. The client is going to look at the rendered video. And what you have told them is 2 hours, but you have finished it in 2 hours, as you have said, but the rendering is taking an extra 2 hours. So you must always put that into play. So you must learn exporting, uploading, they take real time. So you need to plan for them. So one of the tools also you can use is what we call the task. For you to do proper time estimation is what? The task breakdown sheet, right? Convert any large creative project into clear time-bound tasks. This reduces overwhelm, improves deadline accuracy, and helps justify timeline to clients. So let's give you an example what a breakdown look like, right? Let's assuming you are told you are supposed to produce a video content for a client. So you do the proper time estimation. The task, something like client briefing, 1 hour. Then writing the script and storyboard, 2 hours. You are saying shooting will take you 6 hours. Editing will take you 4 hours. Revision will take you what? 3 hours. Then export and delivery will take you 1 hour. So you see, you have broken down this task into their components. And from what you could see there, right, it will take 17 hours to finish it. This tool also supports your fair pricing because you can be able to look at all the things you need, right? And you can be able to give the proper price for a proper fee for your services. You can also show clients exactly what they are paying for. So I will prefer a creative that gives me this breakdown, right? Than a creative that just lumps everything together and say, I will pay this, or it will take this amount of time. When you do proper task breakdown, it shows that you have given an enormous amount of thought into the creative process. Right? Another tool that will help you is what we call time blocking, right? Apart from you actually saying the number of hours, you need to put them in the time block should happen. So you need to assign fixed hours to specific tasks with 0 what? Multitasking, right? 1 task per block. So, and example, from what we have done before, now you are saying 9 to 11, you are going to be doing editing. 11:30 to 12:30, you are doing client communication. From 2 o'clock to 4 p.m., you are doing revisions. This is important. So apart from putting the duration in time, you also need to put them in time blocks. Another important tool for time management is buffer time and scheduling tools, right? Buffer time is the extra time you add to absorb revision, delays, and unexpected circumstances, right? And if you have done any project, you will notice that most deadlines fail at like the 10% of the time, in the sense that you might have budgeted 1 hour and you end up doing like 1 hour, 10 minutes. Now, if you have added a 20 minutes buffer time and made it like 1 hour, 30 minutes, for instance, you will still be within the deadline. Another tool, one of the things you can also do is to what? Use Google Calendar to schedule your time blocks, for instance, right? You need to know the buffer time and scheduling tools, right? Google Calendar helps you specify different times and notify you. So I can go to my calendar and say 9:30 to this, I will do this. 8:30 to do this, I will do anything. 4 to 6 p.m., I will do revisions. It will always remind you. And you should also learn to put breaks where you are putting your time schedule. Because you're a human being, you are bound to also have some break, right? So as a freelancer that is managing multiple clients, learn how to use the Google Calendar. There are also other workflow tools that can help you track tasks like Trello, Notion, and Asana. They help you visualize your workflow at a glance, right? And there is also a time tracking tool called Clockify that you can use to improve your estimation and accuracy over time. They are helping you to estimate the time you use in doing the job so that you can document it and use it for further projects. Okay. Moving ahead. we have looked at what time estimation and tools that can help you manage and schedule time. So let's go to the next pillar of time management, which is focus, distraction control, and burnout prevention. How do you protect your attention? It's important, right? It is one of the pillars of time management. We all know that common distractions include social media, constant messages, perfectionism, unclear feedback, right? And most of us are on social media these days. As a creative, you must learn when to go off social media, right? It's important. Your attention as a creative is one of your most valuable assets. So sometimes you need to put your phone on silent when you are working, doing a deep work. Learn how to control distraction. You don't do one work and veer off and do something else and come back. And you also have to learn how to prevent burnout, right? Limit your daily creative hours. You shouldn't schedule yourself from morning to night to become creative. Allow some time for rest. Push rest in your schedule, right? So you should be able to write 8 to 9, I'm doing editing. 9 to the other one, I'm doing exporting. 10 to 2, I'm doing revisions. 2 to 4, I'm resting. Put rest in your schedule is important, right? Also, you must learn how to renegotiate unrealistic deadlines. Because some clients will come and tell you they want you to shoot a movie in 5 days, start to finish. It's quite unrealistic, and you can tell them, negotiate it and not agree to what unrealistic deadlines. Then also, after every intense project, learn how to build recovery time. It's important because long careers are built on sustainability, not sacrifice. So don't just sacrifice yourself and burn yourself out. Learn how to build sustainable career by preventing burnout and also preventing distractions. Right? Okay. At this juncture, we have finished how to manage your skill for time. We are going to go dive deep toward negotiation. And at this point, I want to, if you have had an experience on negotiation and you have added it on your, if you have an experience on negotiation, you can tell us on the chat section. I can ask for that, right? Okay. Okay, fine. Can we, if you have had experience with negotiation, you could put up in a class listing them. How many of you have had a negotiation failure where you negotiated and you failed, right? If you have had a negotiation failure, just put out also in the class, in the comment section, right? Because negotiation is one of the things that are hard. And if you also agree with me that negotiation is one of the hardest skill of new creatives, also put that in the comment section, right? Okay. Okay, Sarah Kotri is saying that she has failed many times. Okay, we could see that we can all agree that negotiation is something that new creatives will always find difficult. So that's why Chineme was saying, I was afraid the customer would think that my offer is high, even though I deliver quality. I had to underprice. Okay, that's one of the common experiences new creatives always encounter. And here we are going to teach step by step, deep down on how to negotiate properly. And we are going to give a whole lot of examples so that you can have this skill. Because we expect that as we by the following, by as you are already you are starting your career as a professional, and you're going to be in this industry for a long, very long while. So you need to have a very strong negotiation skill, right? So let's move further. Let's dive deep. Let's go deep down this rabbit hole. One of the things we need to understand is that negotiation is not arguing or fighting for money or price. It is a process of aligning value, expectation, risk, and reward between a creative and a client. And I will repeat it because it is the mindset that you go into is the first thing. One is that you have to understand it's not shouting about you need to pay me 1,000, you need to pay me 1 million, you need to pay me 200,000. No, that is not what it's not an argument. It is the process of aligning value, expectation, risk, and reward between a creative and a client. So you need to see that as a process. All right? Creatives who negotiate poorly work harder for less. And creatives who negotiate well work smarter and longer. So how can you negotiate better? This should be the question we are going to answer going forward. But before we answer that, we need to understand why negotiation is critical in creating people. You know why? One is that clients don't often know what they want. You have big briefs that leads to scopes that are not well clear, and sometimes without proper negotiations, you won't be able to know what the client wants and what you are charging. So in some cases, you will undercharge yourself and you will be the one who bears the brunt. Also, any work you produce in the creative media is subjective, as we said. So without clear negotiation, revisions and changes becomes unlimited and unpaid. So the client will produce a work, the client will come say, change this, change that, change that, change this. If you don't negotiate revisions into your contract, it means that all these revisions will be unpaid and it will be taking all your time, right? Many creatives also underpriced out of fear, right? Someone has already said, Chinemem has already said that he underpriced out of what? Fear, right? Zechuku is also saying that an event planner once recommended him to a client years back. But gave the price of 355,000, but it failed, even though another person charged 500,000 and collected the job. So you could see, it's not every time that you put a low price that you get the job. That's sometimes what the people think. As a new creative, you think that sometimes when you tell a client you're underpriced, that is what the client will give you the job. No, because it is not just the price that determines who gets the job. It is alignment of value that and reward that makes you get the job. And negotiation, you need to understand that negotiation is that alignment of value, expectation, risk, and reward. And here we are going to teach you how to make that alignment happen. Negotiation protects your time, income, mental health, and professional reputation. And it's critical for long-term success in the Nigerian creative industry. We need to know that. Okay, let's look at the core principles of effective negotiation. It is your understanding of these core principles that will help you be better at negotiation with your clients, right? The first is that you need to value your efforts. Value yourself and value your efforts. It is quite important because once you don't put value on yourself, you will naturally underprice yourself. So value your effort. Clients pay for results and impact, not just hours alone. So you need to be able to what? Communicate value. Apart from value yourself, you need to communicate value. You need to communicate that you're not just going to work for them for 2 hours or 1 hour. You need to be able to communicate the value you are bringing to the table. So it needs to be clear. So at any point in time you are meeting a client, the value you are bringing to the table needs to be clear. And you must communicate that. You also need to be clear, because clarity beats aggression, right? Be clear on what you are giving, what the value you are providing. Because most conflicts come from what? Unclear agreement, not bad intention. So make it clear. I am going to work for 2 hours. There are only 4 revisions allowed in this project, right? And those clarity will ensure that the client understand what you're offering, what your value is, and why you are asking the fee you are asking for. So you don't just come over and someone come over and say, hey, I want you to produce a work for me. And you say, okay, I'll do this work for 50,000. I'll do this work for 150. No. You should be able to communicate value. I'm going to shoot the video, edit it, color grade it, add the sound effects, right? And publish it to achieve this goal, to make people come to visit your business or people buy from you. And I'm going to do this at the price of 850,000. You could see I'm clear on what I'm going to do and the price I called, right? Also control. Now, also, this is where most new creatives miss. They don't understand that negotiation is what? In negotiation, preparation is 80% of the work. It's important. As a new creative, you should have your rate card written that you have somewhere you have kept, right? You should know your minimum acceptable fee, right? That should be clear to you. That's the lowest you will accept for any type of project you are going to embark on. That should be in your mind. What is your minimum acceptable fee? You should also know your ideal fee, right? That is what you want to learn, what you are targeting. And let me give you an example. Let's say somebody is asking you to direct a work, for instance, for him. You can say that you can, in your mind, know your minimum is 500,000. But in that project, you are targeting 1.2 million. So your minimum fee is 500,000 and your ideal fee is 1.2 million. So you could see you can negotiate between these two ranges, right? Also, you should know your walk away points. At which point you would have to decline the project entirely. Now, it means that if somebody, for instance, come over and tell you for the fee, your minimum is 500, and you say you should go and do the job for 100,000, it means that you are going to walk away. Unless the person is offering all that in non-monetary value that you can sum up and it's worth your fee, right? To know your walk away point. Also know your capacity, your available time, energy, and current deadline load. So that if somebody says, for instance, he wants you to do a job in a very short time, do you have enough time to do that? That is important. So you must know your capacity. And it is important you write down this before you start negotiation, right? Now, sometimes people try to push you into this, to beat you. They will receive a call now and tell you, hey, I want you to do this. How much do you want? Are you charging me? Right? One of the trick you can do is that you start by questioning, saying, how is the project? What is the scope of the project? Now, this gives you an ample time to size the project and know your minimum acceptable fee and your ideal fee, so that you don't just quote a number offhand. Right? Because if you don't know your limits, the client will set them for you. So prepare for every negotiation. right? Now, why you need to understand this, you need to understand that what is called what the pricing strategy that reveals value, right? You need to learn how to reveal the value, not just numbers. Like for instance, somebody tells you, I want you to direct a movie for me, or I want you to create this graphics for me, or I want you to shoot. Don't just ask the person, what's your budget? That is the worst thing to ask the client. And I see a whole lot of new creatives ask that question. If you have heard people who have seen, you have been in a place where people ask, they say, what's your fee? They say, what's your budget? You can raise your, please let us know in the comment section. Don't ask a client, what's your budget? Because your client, if you ask a client, what's your budget, the person will always give you a value that is way lower than his or her budget. But you can ask these questions instead. What outcome are you hoping to achieve? For instance, the client will tell you the outcome you are hoping to achieve. Where will this content be used, right? The client will tell you where the content will be used. What level of quality and turnaround do you need? The client will tell you the quality and turnaround time the person needs. With these three questions, for instance, you will be able to know the budget the person have in mind, or know a budget within the range, right? Because it is useless asking the client, what's your budget? Once you ask these three questions, the budget will reveal itself without you asking, right? You will know if it's a high quality production they are trying to do by knowing what is used for, where they are going to use it, and what quality they are expecting, right? Also, you must learn how to anchor high professionally, right? If you are expecting 800,000, for instance, for a project, start negotiations slightly above your ideal price so that you can leave room for the person to negotiate. So if you're looking at 800,000, for instance, as the ideal price, you can start at 1.2 million and allow the person to negotiate. So you leave room for what? Negotiation. Never start at your minimum fee. So it's not if your minimum fee is 500,000, for instance. The answer, how much do you want to take to do the job? You say 500,000. So the person will now start negotiation of 500 and you get angry. Please don't do that. Because in Nigeria, one of the things you need to understand that we love to negotiate. We can negotiate for Africa. So always anchor higher than your minimum fee, right? And it is important that you understand that the first reasonable number often becomes the reference point in every negotiation. The number you put out first becomes what? The number people use to negotiate. So always learn how to anchor higher than what you expect to get. But that doesn't mean you have to be unrealistic. Another tactics you can use is what we call the option table, right? Instead of you having one price, right, you could have three prices. And that three prices means that the one you expect, your ideal price should always be at the middle, right? So if somebody asks you, okay, fine, I want you to direct the movie for me, right? You can say something example, basic, or give you an example. He wants you to edit a movie for him, for instance. Say basic editing, right? This is, you deliver once and one revision that he can make changes just once in that project, right? After you have delivered. And the price is maybe 200,000. You could also say standard, means that you will polish the system, polish the video, remove all the sound effects, do every other thing, do sound effects, remove background voice, polish the whole production, remove all the errors in speech, and they have the right to make 2 changes. And that will be like maybe 700,000. Then you can offer the premium package, right? The premium package is that you can deliver that in fast. They have priority support and all the extra things you're adding. And that one will be like 1.2 million. one of the things you do in this tactics is that in that tactics, your premium price and your basic, the price should not be close to the standard. If you want them to take the standard, which is the price you want them to go for, always make your premium to be much costlier, right, than the standard. The basic might be close to your standard, but because you called it basic, the person will not. Let me give you an example. For instance, the basic can be 400, the standard 600, right? But the premium 1.2 million. You could see that between basic and standard is a 200 difference, 200,000 naira difference. But because between premium and standard is a 600,000 naira difference. By giving such option table options, you sound more professional, one. And two, if the person is planning for is expecting premium, the premium is there, right, for him or her to negotiate. And if it's planning for standard, he can always pick it, right? This is a very powerful way to reframe it. It's a strong tactics, right, for negotiation. So the person doesn't just have a yes or no, one price, but it have three options to choose from. So you can tell the person now, instead of saying 600,000, yes or no, you can say, which one? It is a very powerful way to reframe negotiation to your advantage. Right? Another tactics is what? Silence after your price. After stating your fee, stop talking. Allow the client to respond. Don't say something like, I charge 400,000 for this, but you know now in Nigeria, they don't actually pay you your fee. They will negotiate. And sometimes we charge less at that, but it's not charging now. And in this economy, we have to charge it because we are just perambulating. A strong negotiation will be something like, my price I want to edit this video, shoot and color grade it for you, and I will take 400,000 to do it. And you stop and allow the client to respond, not moving around and speaking further, right? Also, another tactic is what? Trade, don't discount. If a client says, can you reduce your price? Don't respond with, don't respond with, no, we cannot reduce it, or we can reduce it, but in Nigeria, we have so many things we are doing, you know? If price is the option, right? If the client says, can you reduce your price? Your answer should be, can we also reduce the what? The scope? You should say, if I have to reduce the price, maybe we have to reduce the scope or timeline, right? Maybe you can say, fine, I can reduce my price if I'm not meant to deliver in 4 days, but in 12 days. You could see that in this case, you are discounting, you are trading, not discounting, right? Offer. So in every case of your negotiation, don't know what to discount. Don't know what to trade, not discount. So if the person is saying, okay, fine, can you reduce your price? You say, yeah, but the price can reduce. But what it means is that instead of doing it in 1 week, I'll do it in 2 weeks. In that case, you are trading and you are sounding what? Professional. Also learn how to use time as a leverage. It is important in negotiation that you could say, I will deliver this standard delivery is in 7 days, right? But if you want me to deliver it in 3 days, it attracts what? Higher fees. Understand that urgency should cost more, always. So always ask for more when the client is demanding that you do the job urgently. Okay, fine. Let's look at handling common clients' objections. You see that today's class is well packed, right? Well packed with the clients, how you can manage your clients, right? So we are giving you different tactics on how you can negotiate properly so that you don't underprice yourself and you don't also lose jobs due to bad negotiation tactics. So, example, your client says your price is too high. right? We always hear that. Don't say, my price is not too high. No, that's not a good way to respond. You could say, I understand, but let's look at what we can adjust while still meeting your goal. Or let's look at what we can adjust in the value while still achieve. Can we take more time to do it? If it requires more time, then probably I can reduce the price. That is a good way to negotiate, right? Another way is, another thing common clients always say is someone else is cheaper, right? You can say the other person, they always say, hey, Okeke did it for me last week at this price. Okafor did it for me last year at this price. Or I have quotes from the other person at this price. They are trying to tell you that someone else is cheaper. Is one of the normal ways clients, negotiation tactics of clients. You need to be able to be firm. So it is okay. My pricing reflects quality, reliability, and experience. It depends on what is most important to you. If what is important to you is quality, reliability, then you understand my offer is firm and okay. This is a good way to answer that. Another tactics clients use is, it is just a small job, just a small thing you need to do. Yeah, it is not up to normal thing. No. Just a small job we can do in an hour, right? One of the things you need to say that small jobs still require professional time and expertise. Can you define the scope of the work clearly? Let the person define the scope of the work clearly. There is nothing called a small job without a written scope, right? It is only if the scope will determine if it's a small job or a big job. So don't just take the client's word that is a small job and reduce your price or underprice yourself. If the person says it's a small job, let the person to define the scope before you know if you have to readjust price. Okay. Now another tactics client uses. The client will tell you, come and do this thing for me, and you tell the price is 400. You say, okay, that's fine. 400 is okay. But can you add this small one or the other small one? What you need to do is to say, happy to do that. I'll be happy to add those ones, but I will also adjust the scope and cost. It is important because that is a common tactics of clients. They will tell you to do something. You will tell them their price. They will agree. They will add one or two extra things for you to do. Be firm and telling them that you will need to update the scope and the cost, because those extra things, they cost more things, will also take your time. Let's look at how to negotiate scope, revisions, and when to walk away. It is important. When you are negotiating with a client, negotiate the number of revisions upfront. How many times is he allowed to make changes? It's important. This is part of the things most new creatives miss. They don't negotiate number of revisions upfront. Do that. Define also what counts as a revision versus a new request, right? Because sometimes you will finish a project and a client will add a new request to it and make it look like it's a revision. So you need to define what makes what is a revision and what is a new request. Example of a clause you can put in your contract is 2 revision rounds is included. Additional revisions is billed separately. So this should be added in your contract so that you know the number of revisions a client is allowed. And you should also know when to walk away, right? You should walk away when clients disrespect your expertise. It is important. Don't go along with a client that disrespects you. You should also walk away when the terms keep changing after agreement. After you have a written agreement with a client and the clients keep changing the terms without wanting to make changes to the agreement, you should walk away. Walk away also when your payment is uncertain or delayed, right? Understand it is important. You should value yourself and value your time. And when your payment is uncertain or delayed, learn to walk away. Also, walk away when the scope is deliberately unclear. When you have made consistent requests for the client to clear the scope of the project and the client refuses, learn to walk away, because a bad client costs more than no clients. It's better that you don't have any clients than having a bad client. You always know that. No clients is better than a bad client. You should also understand that negotiation is a long-term strategy. So you should have a strategy for a long term, right? Good negotiation compounds over time. Every fair deal with a client builds the foundation for what? Higher fees, better project, and stronger professional reputation in the industry. So your skill, your negotiation skill is one of the things that will help stand you out as a creative professional. Now we have looked at how to manage your clients, how to manage your time, how to negotiate. Now, the next one is how do you manage your emotions? Do you have emotional intelligence? Because one of the biggest threats you might have in your career is how you react to your clients, right? Because most creatives in Nigeria are not damaged by bad work, but by emotional reactions under pressure. That is why emotional intelligence is key that keeps you professional when everything is going on. It is important because if you don't have strong emotional intelligence, you will find it difficult managing difficult clients, right? So you need to have a strong emotional intelligence. And here we will teach you how you can manage your emotions so as a creative. Yes, it is quite important. Right? Okay, let's move on. So, what is emotional intelligence? What does it mean in creative media? The first one is self-awareness, knowing what you feel and why. Next is emotional regulation, controlling reaction under pressure. Another thing it means is what social awareness, reading clients and situation what accurately. Then conflict control, de-escalating what? Tension professionally, and resilience. That is recovering from setbacks quickly. These are not what? Professional traits. They are trainable skills every creative can develop. It's important you develop self-awareness, emotional regulation, social awareness, conflict control, and resilience. Because the people who develop these skills are the people who will have sustainable careers in the creative media. So let's look at self-awareness. And that is the foundation of emotional intelligence. What does it really mean? It is recognizing when you are angry, defensive, anxious, or overwhelmed. You need to be able to take stock of the emotions you are feeling and identify what triggered those emotions. Is it late feedback, vague briefs, or low budgets? What emotion are you feeling now and what triggered it, right? You should be able to take stock of it and take on audit of it, right? It matters with clients because if you don't recognize your emotions, you react instead of respond. You damage trust and escalate simple issues into major conflicts. Example, if you are angry, for instance, earlier, you are feeling sad earlier, for instance, and you are negotiating with a client. The client might say something and you tend to react to it because you are angry earlier before the negotiation. you understanding your emotions even before you go and meet a client is important. Now, in some cases, you might have to delay or postpone the meeting because you are not in the best emotional state. In that is one of the things that self-awareness works for you, right? Because you will be able to know the emotions you are feeling and know if you're in the best state to maybe meet a client or even take some decisions. And one of the things you can also do is what we call the emotional pause technique, which means that once an emotion is overriding you, you could do one thing. You can pause first, stop, pause, label that emotion, and what? Respond calmly. Naming the emotion reduces the power. And the pause, when you pause, you prevent career damaging messages. Calm responses build client confidence, right? A good example of this is you pause within yourself, you tell yourself, I'm feeling angry. Once you do that, you can now, since you know you're only feeling angry, you can now respond calmly, right? Another part of it is what? In handling criticism and reading clients, right? Example of unprofessional reaction is like the client does not know anything. That is emotional and defensive, right? But a professional reaction can be, let me clarify the outcome you want so that I can align the edits. This is a calm, solution-focused, trust-building message, right? By sending short messages, right? So learning how to pause, calm yourself, and what? And calm yourself and label your emotion will help you learn how to handle what? Criticism, right? And another thing you must never do is responding with short messages. Example, right? Example, a client says, please, how will you, this edit, you need to make these changes for me. This, you say, okay. Or he says, say something that requires you to make an input. You say, it's fine, right? Please, short messages signals stress. Learn how to respond with details so that you can reassure your clients, right? Also, don't be silent with a client. Where the client asks for something or asks for changes, respond. Don't be silent because it signals confusion or distaste. Make sure you respond and follow up proactively. Don't become silent. So, and when there is conflict with clients, learn to stay calm, right? The calmest person controls the conversation always. Always understand that. Then you also need to what? Restate the agreed goal. You see why your documentation is important. Bring the conversation and your documentation back to have a shared what? Objective. Then refer back to the scope. That is why written agreements is quite powerful. It is a very good tool to what? Resolve conflicts. Then learn to offer solutions, not blame. Focus on fixing the problem, not assigning faults. Okay, now let's look at resilience. How do you bounce back from setbacks? Because in your career, you are going to have setbacks, whether you like it or not. Every successful creative has been rejected more times than you can imagine. There's a story that Chimamanda Adichie was rejected more than 25 times, more than 40 times before one of her first novel was published, right? Even J.K. Rowling that authored Harry Potter had numerous rejections. How do you bounce back? Because in the industry, your clients can cancel your project can fall through, but resilience means you can recover and move forward. Your pitches can also be rejected. And without resilience, the rejection will feel personal and permanent. Also, the creative industry is also sometimes very stressful. How do you bounce back from intense stress? So it is important you understand that you need to be able to manage stress and not allow it to spill over to your client's communication. And if you are resilient, it leads to what? Mental toughness. So you could see we are preparing you for this career, right? And mental toughness really means staying calm under tight deadlines, solving problems quickly, and maintaining what? Quality under pressure, right? You must learn how to what? Become client focused. That is a good part of mental toughness. So you could see managing your emotions, becoming resilient, and focusing on solving problems leads to you having what? Mental toughness, right? Being able to give clear response during last minute changes, being able to give clear decisions under stress, and being able to use professional tone even when what? Exhausted. If you can do all this, shows how tough you are mentally, right? Because clients trust creatives who remain composed under pressure. It signals reliability and professionalism. So your emotional intelligence plus resilience plus your mental toughness becomes the full system and skill that will give you the mindset that can change the game for you. It is so important because we know that you as a creative will become the game changer in the industry. Now, let's now look at, we have taught you the emotional intelligence, we have taught you how to be resilient, we have also taught you how to be mentally tough. Let's now look at your mindset. What is the mindset that can be used for a long-term creative success? And that is what? The growth mindset, right? Like we always say, that the talent opens doors, right? You are moving down into the technical skills required as a creative. But what will determine if you go far as a creative is the fundamentals we are teaching. We have taught you that, and the growth mindset that is required to make it happen. So, what is growth mindset? There are two types of mindsets, right? There is the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, right? Because we can have the same challenge, but the same challenge provide two different outcomes. There's this adage that is the same hot water that softens a potato is the same hot water that what hardens an egg. So how are you going to be a potato or an egg? Growth mindset transforms every setback into a stepping stone. We are saying this because we need to understand that setbacks is one of the natural things you will meet in the creative industry, right? Setbacks is normal. It is a reality. The question is, how do you grow and how do you manage setbacks? And it is so important. Growth mindset is critical because without growth mindset, feedback will feel like attack. I'll give you an example, for instance. So some of you have written your assignments, right? And some of these assignments have been graded. Some got superlative scores, 78, 80, and things like that. Some also have low score. That is a feedback, right? And if you have gone through the app, the Link School app, I'm seeing your assignment, and you had probably a low score, how did you feel? Feel that it is a personal attack. But it is not, it's a feedback. A feedback is just a guidance, and it's just a stepping stone for you to do better. So you will have to understand that. Don't take feedback. And I'm saying this not only because of this course, but in general in life, you should learn how to take feedback as a stepping stone to career growth, not a personal attack. It is also a sign of maturity. Another thing, a reason why growth mindset is important, because if you don't have growth mindset, new tools, new knowledge, new lessons will feel threatening. You will feel threatened by anything new, right? Now we are taking creative media. You have gone through 7 lessons. You'll be asking yourself, when will this thing end? If you don't have growth mindset, you feel threatened by new knowledge, new tools. Anything new will threaten you. So you need to adopt a growth mindset. Also, without growth mindset, rejections will feel personal. If people reject your work or your idea, you will feel is a personal attack. You won't see it as an opportunity for growth. And without all this, you will get stuck at the beginner level, or you even drop out. So you need to have a growth mindset, because with growth mindset, feedback become guidance. New tools become what? Opportunities. When people tell you, hey, do this thing new, do this one, becomes opportunities. Rejection also becomes what? Redirection, right? And you will stay relevant and earn more. With the industry that is changing quite fast and is technology driven and competitive, we all know how we have moved to AI now, and different tools are coming up every day. ByteDance just launched T-Dance the other day. If you don't have a growth mindset, you will feel overwhelmed by all this. Growth mindset is not optional, it is survival strategy. A core elements of growth mindset include learning orientation. Always have the urge and the desire to keep learning, always improving. Treating every project as a training, not judgment. So every project, what you see it as a training, an opportunity to learn something new. You also be able to accept feedback. You use critique to grow rather than defend your work emotionally. Always, when people criticize your work, listen to them, understand what they are saying, and use their critique to grow rather than being defensive and defending yourself emotionally. Also, growth mindset leads you to persistence, right? You can continue despite the setback, the rejection, and difficult clients. That persistence is one of the things growth mindset helps you to achieve. Also, you become adaptable. You can embrace new tools, platforms, and new creative demands, right? So when you are told to learn a new tool or handle something you don't know how to do before, you embrace it rather than shrinking and getting angry. Also, another core element of growth mindset is what? Self-reflection. You will be able to reflect and learn from every of your projects. So every of your project becomes a time for you to reflect. So you can learn from your wins and your failures. Now let's look at how to develop a growth mindset, right? You need to, first of all, know how to reframe failure. Instead of saying, why did I fail? These things, Why did I fail? Is it my own is different? Reframe it. Ask the question, what did this thing teach me? So instead of saying, why did I fail? Is it village people? Is it because of the other person? If you are saying why you failed, you are already putting yourself to apportion blame. But if you say, what did this teach me, right? You are positioning yourself to turn that failure to become a learning opportunity. You also have to learn how to replace self-talk, right? Change the self-talk, I can't do this, to I can't do this yet. You see that word yet, it reframes the whole thing and unlocks progress. Because it means that I cannot do it now, but I will be able to do it tomorrow. So instead of saying I can't do this, learn to say I can't do this yet. Instead of saying I'm not good at this, say I am not good at this yet. Do that. Always add that yet. The word yet unlocks progress. Also, you must learn how to focus on the process, not ego. Judge your method, not your identity, right? The process is important, right? Not your identity. Failure also is not identity. If you say, for instance, let me give you an example. If you are attempting to do a movie, for instance, and the project is cancelled, you don't come over and say, I failed in this project. No. It should be that the project failed. At the same time, if the project succeeds, you did not say, I succeeded with this project. You say, this project succeeded. So learn how to separate who you are from what you made. It is so important. If you create a film, for instance, that is not well accepted, that people did not like, don't come and say, I failed in this film. You say the film failed. You and what you made should be separate in your mind. Also, you must adapt what we call the learning loop and the feedback translation. This is like at the first step learning loop. You attempt, do the work, you receive feedback from clients, peers, and mentors. You reflect on what worked and what did not work, and you improve. You apply the lesson in your next project. After you improve, you do what? You attempt again, receive feedback, reflect, and improve. If you keep doing this cycle, you will be at the top in no distant time, right? And you should also learn how to translate what your client said. Example, when a client says, this does not feel right, right? You should be able to translate it to what emotion is missing, what reference can be clarified, and what outcome is expected. If you reframe, translate what the feedback into actionable insights, it helps you to have instructions that will help grow your career. Now, we also need to know how to overcome growth mindset blockers, because there are blockers that blocks your growth mindset, right? The very first thing you need to understand is that don't fear looking incompetent. Don't fear. Every professional, every expert you have ever met was once a beginner. There was a time when Cristiano Ronaldo was still learning how to juggle ball. So don't fear looking incompetent. Ask questions early, because curiosity signals intelligence, not weakness. That's one of the things people don't understand. Curiosity, asking questions, signals intelligence, not weakness. Another blocker is what? Comparison with others, right? Always compare your progress. Compare how you were yesterday with how you are today. That is what you should compare. Never compare yourself with others. Compare your progress. Ask yourself how you have improved over time, not if who is better than you and who you are better. Also learn how to detach your ego from your work. Treat your tools as your instruments, not your identity. Your work is different. You are different. So learn how to detach your ego from your work. Another blocker is what? Comfort with old tools. People find it difficult to change. They want to keep using the old tools they have been using, right? You are a video editor, probably. You have been using a particular set of tool, and now AI is disrupting that tool, and you don't want to learn the new tool, right? Always try to learn one new skill per project so that it will help you stay ahead of the industry. Anything that any new tool that is available, learn how to use it. Even if you know how to use it, but you don't want to use it, you can, but know how to use it. You can know how to use it, but you don't want to use it, or it doesn't suit your project. But don't be afraid of learning new tools, and don't take comfort in your old tools. Right? This is important, right? Because creative with growth mindset will always stay relevant in the fast-changing creative industry. They will earn more over time. They will also transition into leadership positions, and they will survive the industry shifts and disruption. But creatives without growth mindset will get stuck at beginner or mid-level. They will blame clients or the industry, and they will burn out faster. A practical strategy you need to learn and deploy is to learn one new skill per month. It doesn't need to be a big thing. It can just be maybe how to write better titles for YouTube. It's a new skill. Or how to write better descriptions of your video on YouTube. It's a new skill. Try to have the idea, a strategy of learning one skill per month. So one improvement goal per project. Every project you are going to do, ask yourself, what is the improvement goal? So one new skill per month, one improvement goal per project, and one reflection after every delivery. That as a practical strategy will help you have a growth mindset. So as a complete creative professional, you must be able to have what? Know how to manage your clients, understand, align, communicate, and and talk with your clients, because alignment, communication, and good client management build trust. You must also learn how to manage your time, plan, estimate, schedule, focus, and sustain your attention, right? You must also know how to negotiate, right? Know your value, anchor high, trade, not discount, and walk away when the offer is not needed. And you must also have good emotional intelligence and growth mindset. Now, with all this as the key takeaway for today's class, and the ethics, the safety, and the professional branding we have talked about in the previous lessons, if you combine all this, the journey to become a creative will become well smooth. And as you are starting, know that the talent is not just enough. The mindset will determine how far you go. And if you imbibe all this we have said to become a complete creative professional, the sky will just be your starting point. At this juncture, we have come to the end of the slide and we will take questions. But before we take questions, if you have enjoyed the slide and you are here with us, please let us know with your emoji and in the comment section. So you can put your comments in your comment section and with your emoji so that we can be sure you enjoy the class. So please, a round of applause if you are with us and you enjoyed the class. And also, at this juncture, I would take your questions. So if you have any question, please write it in the comment section. If you're on YouTube or you're on Zoom, please write your questions in the comment section. Okay, I'm still expecting your questions. If you're on the YouTube live stream, you can also um, uh, ask your question in the comment section. I've not seen your question. Does it really mean that you guys don't have any question for me today? I'll be a lucky man if you don't have. Okay. Jessica Ayeni is saying, can you recommend the tools we can use for management and share templates for contracts? Okay, I think we have mentioned for scheduling, you could use Google Calendar for set up your reminders. Then there are tools like Trello, Asana that is used for scheduling task management, right? Especially in the time management part there. You're asking for templates. You are asking for templates for contracts. I think you can find those ones online, probably. It's not so hard. Besides, I will also want to tell you to also, you could also use ChatGPT to generate some templates, but it will also be nice to take some of these templates to a lawyer so that a person goes through it and it becomes easier. It becomes, you will be protected from every legal angle. So in as much as you can generate templates, I will always advise that you consult a lawyer, right, a solicitor, so that you are well protected, right? Okay. Then Olufemi John of Folabi is asking, is there a certification we are acquiring at the end of this program? Yes, but it is for the people who take the whole creative media program, and at the end of the program, they are going to write what they call the NSQ, National Skill Qualification Exam. If they pass, they will get the NSQ certificate. However, if you have completed this fundamentals of creative media, which is a course on its own in the portal, in the Link School app, we are going to give you a micro badge. You can also share on micro badge. You can share on your Facebook profile. You can generate it from the app, right? Facebook profile to show that you have completed. But that will also be for people who have also done their assignments and their quiz, right? Then Anthony Chisomi is asking, how can you handle a client when you are so angry and you have limited time to reschedule the client the next day? So remember, we talked about pausing, naming the emotion. First of all, is learn to pause, name the emotion. If you name the emotion, one of the things you could do is also ask the client to give you some time so that you could cool off. Because if you are very angry, pause first. Remember, the word pause is one of the key things there in managing the emotions. Pause. Stop talking. Stop doing anything. Pause. Label the emotion. You can go to the toilet or do anything. But if you are highly overwhelmed by any emotion, it is the very first thing you should do is pause. Whether it is positive emotion or negative emotion, pausing actually creates time and creates the ability for their emotion to de-escalate. So it's important. Learn to pause, name that emotion. Name that emotion. You're telling the emotion that I am angry or I'm sad or this. Name the emotion in your head. Then give some time so you can calm down and cool off. Then before you can come back and to handle the client. And you can now in that time reflect on the question: what's the conflict? Why is the client reacting the way he's reacting? How can you solve it? In that reflection time, when you have calmed down, you could now look at how do you fix the problem. Because if you are looking at how to fix the problem, not who to apportion blame, it becomes so easy to handle clients and resolve conflicts, right? Then Anya Fon Bok is saying that if you collect a project and finished it, and you lost your device, and your client requests a view, what will you do? The very first thing you're going to do is to be honest with the client. Is that simple? If you have lost the work and it can be retrieved, be honest with the client. And one of the things I will always advise new creatives is tell the client the bad news first. What I mean is this: assuming you have done this project, you have lost your device, the client is asking, how can I want to view this? Tell the client beforehand, right, that the client, that the device has been lost. He might be angry. The worst thing you can do is the client calls you now. You say, okay, I will bring it tomorrow. Because the next day, say, hey, wait, now I'm coming. I'll bring it the next day. Then after like 2 weeks, you tell the client you have lost it. It doesn't make sense. And also a good part of it is that if before the client, it will even make more sense before the client has called you when you have lost this your project, right? You have done a project, maybe a video, you have lost the video. To call the client and say there is an issue, I've lost this video, even before he asks for you to view, but I'm making efforts to retrieve it. So the client understands it. The client might be angry, but he will always be happy that you acted professionally by being honest. So it is quite important. Then Bolale Olowo Benny is saying, how do I handle a client that is too difficult to satisfy and relate to? See, the question is that when you say a client is too difficult, it is vague communication. Why is a client difficult? Right? Has the client made expectation? Do you have a written contract or written scope of work with this client? Right? Because sometimes, most of the time, when we say client is difficult, is because we don't have a written scope. So you collected a vague brief from a client and you do something and the client says it's not okay, and he gives you another fake brief. But if you have asked the question and aligned your brief and your scope and have an agreement, and with number of revisions, right, you have written that the client can make 2 changes only. Even if the client is difficult and he signs a contract that says he can only make 2 changes, he knows that he will be wise enough to utilize the revisions that are available to him. Because at the end of the revisions, you have a document to back up what the agreement is. And if the client is asking for more changes and revisions, the clients have to pay. Then Original Jumbo is asking, the last assignment, the task 3, I don't understand. Who can I talk to regarding it? The groups are not helping. Okay, fine. We will check on it and see what it is and what you don't understand and provide clarity, right? Okay. Olufemi John Alabi is saying, I received email to join the program this week, sir. One of the things you have to understand, we have scheduled emails earlier, but some of them delivered this week. So if you have been in the group or you already have joined, it might be because of late delivery of the email. So please don't disregard if you have already joined. Right? Okay. I think at this juncture, I would end this class because this has been a long 2 hours. And I thank everyone who has joined, who have been part of this creative media class. Please, everyone should go to the Link School app and do their quiz and an assignment because we are recording that and it's also forms part of the assessment for this program. It is also part of your attendance. We thank you so much for joining and being part of today's class. And if this class has been of help to you and you have enjoyed today's lecture, please let us be glad, let us know with an applause so that we can all be encouraged and continue providing this content for you, right? Thank you so much, everyone. It has been a pleasure being your instructor for today.